can't stop smiling because last night I went to sleep listening to this subliminal, and let me tell you guys, oh, my head's so big. But mainly because I woke up this morning and I realized that the reason that I sometimes fear my boldness and my confidence is because I feel the need to explain where it came from. Isn't that weird? Like, I feel uncomfortable sometimes stepping into this confident, bold version of me because I sometimes feel like I don't really have much to stand on. But when I think about what that means, like what am I standing on, it's mainly saying like what material achievements or accolades can I use to back my credibility, my expertise, and validity in what I'm doing. And I realize I don't need none of that because I got that dog in me. Okay, JK. People said good morning to me. So sweet. I love my neighborhood. But the reason that I say that I got that dog in me, when I say I got that dog in me, the dog I always refer to is Courage the Cowardly Dog, because despite all the crazy shit that poor dog had to go through, he always defended his people, aka Muriel. Now I don't know about Eustace, whatever his name was. He was an op. But that's what I mean, because I realized that I'm almost reaching the year mark of when I decided to cancel all of my contracts that were very high paying to figure out myself, to figure out my shit, and to fucking slow down because I was burning out. And when I woke up this morning and I felt this confidence, but yet I kind of looked around in my material world, I kept, this logical side kept asking me, like, who do you think you are? Like, none of the things that you have been working on have led to money or a big payout, but I realized they led to so much more than that, because I gave myself a whole year to figure out who I was, to actually step into my authority, and ultimately figure out how I want to build out the rest of my life, like genuinely, and knowing what my non-negotiables are, my boundaries, and more importantly, what's my target in life and what is the shit that I'm shaking, because I have to feel somewhat connected to the thing that I am doing in some essence. And it's always been the case in corporate. That's why I loved working on teams and short projects, because I always knew what the end game was. And I feel like this whole year, the end game was to get me ready for this exact place. Confirmation. And what I realized is that this goal that I have for my Kickstarter is quite extreme. $1 million. Do I think I can actually do it? Fuck yeah. But you know why I believe I can do it is because I'm so deeply confident in myself, because I have failed so many times so publicly. And if I had failed so many times publicly doing small little things for my own self, imagine, and those weren't even failures, they were leading to something even bigger. So imagine that if I put myself out there and I say I'm gonna make $1 million for this project that I'm putting together, then that means I am gonna get closer even further than that. You know what I mean? Also, look at this cool effect. Oh, my lashes. Oh my god, this is so dope. I'm literally gonna leave it like this, because what I'm building is literally the blueprint of all of my pain turned into antidotes, into medicine, into cures for people, into places, things, and systems that people, and especially people who were in situations I was in, really needed. And if that is truly what it is I am building, and I have spent the last year prepping myself for this, being in a state of being so deadly confident in myself that nothing can rock me, the only thing I can now do is turn all this inspiration and power and knowledge that I have into benefiting the collective in some manner. And if I have to look like an idiot or be the fall guy for hope and faith, so be it. So much more to come, but if you want to donate to the Kickstarter, or honestly be a part of it or learn more, the form is in the actual bio. Because honestly, I see this being kind of like the ice bucket challenge, except we're not raising money for ALS. Sorry. Okay, more to come. Bye.
He's just always in his own world. He really quiet for real, unless he know you. He's funny as hell though, but
I'm back and I have my Celsius, and this is part 2 as to why I believe I will raise $1 million for my Kickstarter within 60 days, because honestly they capped me at 60, but you know what? I like that number. I'm gonna stick to it. So in part one, I talked about why I feel really confident that I can do this, because I have failed so publicly multiple times, and if anything, it makes the falling process a lot easier and funner, but also allows me to be a lot more bolder, because I realize that every fall is showing me where I played small rather than telling me that I can't do this thing. It's asking me to go back to the drawing board and dream bigger. And this Kickstarter I'm creating, that I'll place right here, is that. In essence, I would describe Aleph as a cultural / operating system where we bridge the gap between media, technology, and communities. The goal really for me is to be the person, or at least to have the team, where we can go into all of these systems that are broken, extractive, or no longer benefiting the end user or its people, and rewriting, recoding, and rewiring it so that it benefits us as a collective. Because we're currently in a place where all these systems are crumbling, our financial institutions are literally withering, and yet still extractive and also hella demeaning and distracting to us, which then leads us to, I'm not saying we pen each other against one another, but it makes us feel like we have to go harder, we have to hustle more, we have to cut through and, cheat the system so that we can win, because why not? Everybody's cheating the system. And that's something I have never truly believed in. Like cheating the system or trying to finesse it to your own benefit while not fixing the root issue. And that's what Aleph is doing. Aleph is coming in and not only seeing these leaks and clogging them up, but as we clog them up, we're building new ones. And that's what I'm asking for your help. No, and this is who you guys will be doing it for, the kids. It's a beautiful day to be beautiful. Okay, enough of this. Anyways, in essence, the way I would describe it is that Aleph is the bridge from the old world to the new one that we're creating that is for the people. And the way that I plan to I didn't like using I say we because I still believe that there's going to be a team for this. But regardless, I do have a team, but you know what I mean. The way that we will be transforming this, or at least building the bridge to your new world or your new path, is through the following. And the way that I would explain this transformation is by using a typical conversion funnel. We have the top of funnel, which is what our growth engine and what people are able to know about your brand, aka through marketing content. It's the visibility element of your content and messaging. The issue right now with top of funnel is that bitch is clogged to the T. There's too many AI things. Also, there's just a lot of misinformation out there, and it will get significantly worse as Uranus moves further and further into Gemini over the next couple years. So a lot of that will just lead to mental chatter, mental clutter, and a lot of just nonsense that you don't need in order to actually find inspiration, get clear on that vision, and then work it from your brain down to your heart. So the way I see the media element coming into play for Aleph is that we are cutting through the noise. The goal is to stop with all this extra fluff of all these woo tools that you use, or really just trying to get you from point A to point B and showing you how all this extra stuff that you've consumed and done is not necessary. So we call you out. And that's not just through my Moving Mad podcast, but that's through all of my client work. That's the angle that we all take. So, for example, we have one client, and her podcast is called Minding My Damn Business. And what she's doing is calling you out on all the BS, moves, and expressions and beliefs you tell yourself that really stop you from actually being able to bridge the gap from your belief to your behaviors and live the life you want. She's cutting through the noise. And she's telling you guys to mind your business and stop putting shit out there that will just confuse everybody else, or you're lying to yourself. Then we have Money Talks, this other podcast, which is basically being the cultural bridge between academic work and theories and concepts that we desperately need to know about that help connect the points in our brain so that these key abstract topics can actually be integrated and turned into actionable insights. And so what Money Talks is doing is breaking that down from a cultural narrative perspective, tying it back to lived experiences, all through what? Music. Because music is a universal experience that we can't really describe. However, it all hits us differently. And so what this is doing is showing the connecting points for people. So I don't know, maybe you guys can start using critical thinking when listening to songs and why certain things make you feel a certain way. So the top of funnel is something that I would work on with brands and content creators or entrepreneurs or anyone who has a message that they want to put out. My main focus with this is how can we turn your pain and experience into a story, into someone's medicine, or into someone's actual practice that they can embed in their day-to-day life. And by doing that, we are then at least being able to declutter all the nonsense that is out there by giving you the straight facts that you need to know, and also how to therefore integrate it for yourself, because that process is deeply personal. Then once we move you from the top of funnel, from your brand content marketing perspective, and you cut through the noise, then what Olive does is how are you then going to help bridge or translate what they just took up here into how they're feeling in their heart. Now, this is what I consider your middle of the funnel, your nurturing engine. So thinking about how people have email marketing campaigns, things that allow people to binge your shit, right? Or to constantly interact or engage with you. However, what we're finding now is that a lot of people are turning to these community platforms or the word community as a way of making more money, or as a way of also just inundating their end users or their community members with a lot of these fucking newsletters and email campaigns that just use language that guilts people into buying their stuff. So yeah, of course no one wants to show up to your live community class because all you're going to do is regurgitate a ChatGPT presentation you put together that you probably pre-recorded, and you're not even actively on there, nor do you even know my name. Okay, I love Bushwick, but I don't know if I would call it heaven per se, but to each their own. And honestly, to be honest, I think I move through each one of these emotions at least once a day. Especially that one. That's me all the time. And now the community has turned into a buzzword, or low-key an end product, which makes me so fucking sad that you're making people a product at this point. Because at the end of the day, you can't commodify a sense of belonging and think that that is going to be the answer to our loneliness. It's not. What people need is cadence. What people need is predictability. What people need are people that they can fucking depend on. And I hate to say this word, but the only way that you can become someone that they depend on is by being a person that provides value to them. And what I mean value, that's actually a process of you understanding what your authority is and how you can actually show up in that way and encourage other people to do that. And an authority doesn't tell people what to do, it shows people how to do it exactly. It's like all of these gurus that we have, no offense, they've helped me, right? Like Abraham Hicks and all of them. But they don't actually sit down and tell me how to do the goddamn thing. And I'm not saying that people need to show you how to do it. But the thing is that the how is gatekept. It's put behind paywalls that are only probably priced out for a lot of us to use. And if they actually do have really good value, they get accidentally put down in the bottom of the funnel, which then gets diluted and lost in the sauce with everybody's generic e-course or book. And so I found that the way to actually provide value for your community is to use current systems that they have within their daily life or operations, or even just how they go about their productivity and habit building, and help them create those systems, and then also work with partners who have the already existing infrastructure that can then take their insights and turn it into some valuable action. So think about you partnering with an AI company that has note-taking abilities, and you work with them to be able to turn those notes that they got into actionable insights using your coaching curriculum. See, that's how you heal the middle funnel and provide actual value to your audience. Okay, go to part 3 for more. So this is part 3 of me saying why I believe I will make $1 million for this Kickstarter for my business, which is a cultural and community engine to basically heal the world and creatives from this awful economy. In part one, we talked about why I was so confident, and that's because I failed one too many times and I don't care anymore, and now I'm using it for good. Part two talked about kind of the breakdown of Aleph and what I am seeing from this cultural engine and how it's breaking down the media as well as the community elements of the ways in which we operate that's currently failing, and walking you guys through how I'm envisioning it, and we'll be using the $1 million to heal the world. This is so fun. Now, part three, we are talking about the last element of the conversion funnel, which was the bottom funnel. The top of funnel is what I consider the growth engine, the visibility aspect, where again, your brand, your content, your artwork is shown to people. However, that's clearly backed up because everybody and their mamas is showing and creating content. And so that's where I came in and wanted to flip how we create media to at least be the authority of making sure that you guys are consuming shit that's actually helpful and not clogging you up. Then you go into your heart, and your heart is your middle funnel, and how community has become an end product, and how I see community as actually being a bridge between these AI companies and your coaching curriculum or your teachings or what it is that you want to do, so that you can actually provide tangible insights for your audience. So basically using the AI company as the bridge between your valuable insights and into actual strategy or actionable things that your audience can do or your community members can do, so your value actually turns into some shit. Girl, man, has slow down. I'm walking so fast because I'm so excited. I'm so mad I don't ever have a zip. But what the fuck is this? Y'all, stop cursing me. Oh, that's a really cool name for a grocery store, but too bad it shut down. Wow. Now that we have gotten information from the top of funnel, we make our way down into the middle funnel where we're nurturing the community and they're translating the insights into how they want to move. Now we have to ground all that bad boy, and that goes to your root, or AKA your bottom funnel. So your bottom funnel is like your services, your offerings, your products, your artwork. It's the end thing. It's what you actually created through this whole lovely process that you are now using to, get money. And so this is where I love to interject, because I have a very strong belief that we do not need any more products, no more guides, no more courses. What we need is group collective work. So that's what I kind of thought about this creative house, or I'm calling it the sanctuary, because low-key that sounds cool. Because I believe, and I have seen, that even if you have all the knowledge and inspiration and you are able to be nurtured and turned it into, something actionable and start building, if your environment is not right, it's not going to land well. I'm letting you know now. And your environment is important because that's how you kind of establish your rhythm, your cadence, as well as what you need to do so that you can kind of understand ways that you can hype or build up your momentum. Oh, one man said I was beautiful. Thank you. Because if you are not in the right environments that can support your growth, or surrounded by people who at least are seeing the efforts of you showing up daily, your willpower, your faith and belief in yourself are really going to be tested. And I found that this is what I genuinely needed more than anything over the last year, was a home, was people who saw me showing up, because that's all I could have possibly done. In that year, I was in the process of completely restructuring and rebuilding my life after everything is gone. And that is the most scariest, traumatic, loneliest experience I've ever had. And this is why I feel so deeply passionate about this, because this is the root of everything I am building. Because I genuinely believe that you can't do this alone. And on top of it, when you can just commit to being around people and know that you have a place that you can go to, who can hype you up, who can feed you, who can make you feel good, like a pit stop, so you can keep going and get that momentum, like that's what I needed, and that's what I know I can offer to people for sure. And also within the house is this lovely creative rehab program that I worked on, that I'm now dubbing as a business handbook or a manual of some sort. And it's called Lover's Lane. And the reason I chose to call it Lover's Lane was because two reasons, actually. Number one, I'm from Atlanta. Atlanta, their drivers are crazy. You'll be in the middle of the crazy highway, and some bitch in a Nissan Altima who is all the way in the left lane decides the last minute that they're gonna cross 5 lanes to get off the exit ramp. That's typical. However, me being me, I sat with that metaphor a little bit and I realized that's how I usually operate. I'll be chilling and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, almost missed my exit. And I'll be cutting through that bitch. But then I think about the HOV lane, and let me tell you, that is one of my favorite lanes. Is I will just pretend that I'm in a movie scene, driving down I-85, blasting my music. But then I realized that I get bored, and now I have to awkwardly wait until the little dashes come up, because legally you can't cross if it's 2 lines, right? Hear me out, because I don't know why I'm going here. And so then I have to awkwardly wait, and then finally I go. But then potentially sometimes when that happens, I either have to cross the line because I'm about to miss my exit, or I just say, fuck, I missed it, and I have to go all the way back around. And in my head, I thought about what is the best way that you enjoy driving. And let me tell you, I'm a crazy speed demon, but I love skipping through. Boop, 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 you know? Like a little snake rattling through. But, I'm respectful. I use my blinkers, and I never cut people off. I might curse them out, though. And I realized that this is what I mean by the lover's lane. Because I just love being able to see a few cars down and now kind of in my head be like, all right, I see that this car's going a little bit slow. Let me clock over here. Let me go over here. And I'm able to get to my destination and also still have a really good time. Oh, another man said I was beautiful. He did say I looked like a friend of his, and he was 80 years old, so I'm confused. Also, a random story, because I always get that I look familiar to people. I know I look like Kerry Washington. That's my girl. But once I went out with a group of friends when I was in Chicago. This white boy came up to me and said he said I look like 11 from Stranger Things. And I said, I'm black. And also, I'm not 14 years old. And so I looked at him and I said, so you're coming up to me to tell me that I look like a child actress. Is that your way of flirting? Because if so, you're going to jail. But anyways, he ran away after I said that. Regardless, going back to the story. Going back to that whole highway metaphor, it's just, again, the destination that we all have will change, right? However, it's on us to determine how we want to enjoy that ride and move throughout it. I found that Lover's Lane is a handbook / manual I'm putting together, and not just another self-help book, because we don't need that. We need a tactical workbook, and I got the systems, I got the cheat codes, and I want to create this book. And so I believe that being able to start this Kickstarter, where I'm saying I'm going to raise $1 million, I'm not touching shit until I do it, because I know I will too. Then the next order of priority will be this book and publishing it, or handbook, sorry, it's a manual, but I'm using it as like the holy grail that I'd love to expand upon and build out different people's own lover lanes, or like their own business or company handbook, because it's a strict program out here. And I believe that this is a way for us to start documenting our systems and sharing them in a way that heals and recodes the ways in which we interact and operate and connect with one another, which ultimately will change the way that commerce is dealt with. And the end, that is Allah. And I will say that a lot more will come from this. And today's Wednesday, which is ruled by the planet Mercury, which is all about communication, which is why all of this loveliness is coming out. And so starting September 7th, because that's when the Kickstarter will go live, much more will come out, and all the lovely people and things that I have been building will start coming together, so you can see what the hell I can do with 0 money and what I will be able to do with $1 million. Okay, bye. And another reason that I am very confident that I will reach $1 million within the next 60 days for my project is because I know that my ancestors on both sides are backing me. Because my parents came together with the intention of creating a family from unconditional love. And that is what they base their values, their morals, and their integrity on. And both of my parents have operated from a place of genuinely being amazing human beings. And it was beautiful to grow up and see that example kind of set for us. However, the world has messed them up. And so now I'm messing the world up for them. Sorry, that got a little aggressive. And yes, I can fight, but I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'll squabble with you or, put 'em up. I'm so stupid sometimes. So both of my parents are refugees from Somalia, and they both came to Georgia independently and also by themselves. They met while they were both relatively new to the city, and they got together and they had me. Lovely me. But something about their journey will always stick with me because when my parents both met one another, they both shared their bond around their own struggles related to belongingness and having to do life by themselves. So imagine two big bulls coming together, both very fiery, very stubborn, but they're the biggest softies you'll ever meet. So imagine your dad is this like super cocky dude that he claims that he had a big head and a six pack, so I'm gonna let him have that. But then you have my mom over here who's just stunning and gorgeous and a man eater. I take that back, Bob. I'm sorry, that was kind of mean. You're not a man eater, but she's very smart and she's charming. But what was beautiful was that they both were able to lay their defenses down and they both saw the same hurt within one another. They both believed that they knew that there is a genuine love out there and that they just haven't been on the receiving end of it. And because they haven't been able to be on the receiving end, to them, love has always felt like a maneuver, a game of twisting and turning, of playing chess, not checkers, rather than just outright telling someone that they want them. Not sneaky in a bad way, but mainly from the fact that they know how to get what they want. They're both very determined folk. They're both extremely stubborn. So imagine two stubborn people coming together. 3x! Anyways, when they both met each other and recognized the same hurt in the same ways that they operated within a relationship, they both laid their defenses down. And in them laying their defenses down, they both came together and said, we both want to agree that we will build a family based off of unconditional love. So to me, that intention was so deeply felt from the beginning of my family, and I was conceived. I like to think on Valentine's Day, because I was a November baby, so we work backwards. It's around Valentine's Day, so I was conceived in the month of love. So basically, I'm love, B. Okay, I got a little carried away. But in essence, my parents always taught us the importance of unconditional love, or at least making any sort of intention or action that comes from that place, and also how to treat people with human decency, and more importantly, how to pay it back and pay it forward. My dad has always taught me that if you see anyone in need, you help them, you address them, and you say hello. You look them in the eye and say hello. And my dad has always taught me that you have to treat everyone like a human being and on the same level as you, and to always give back regardless of how much you have. And I always do that. Every time I see someone in the streets, I always give them whatever I have, even if it's a half-eaten sandwich. If they don't need that, I apologize. But, my coins, my dollars, it's just my way of kind of contributing to this collective ecosystem. And the thing I admired the most was that my parents always told me that life will always be life-in, but the most important thing that you can do is always look for joy and happiness and just fucking play. Like, my parents have the most playful relationship. You're able to see their inner children or child play with one another, and that is what was modeled to me as love. And I think that that's a beautiful introduction into love, and also why I choose to continue that legacy and to instill those values, to instill that way of moving and operating within whatever it is I do, within Aleph, within this home that I'm going to create, within any work and any content that I place and share. It's always my place, and it's always within my heart to allow there to be a safety net for people to come to and to fall into. And I find that this whole, like, you know, you're the only one that can get you from point A to point B is so this is demeaning, not demeaning, but belittling and simplifying, and also making the process much more painful than it needs to be. That you do and can get support, though you are the physical person who has to energetically move into that space and to do the thing. Physically, you can surround yourself with the right group of people, and you can create the right environment that facilitates inspiration and flow. Like, there's things that you can do and turn to and place that responsibility outwards. Like, you don't have to take on all the responsibility of figuring it out. But in essence, going back to my whole family story and the values of the campaign and Allah, what I realized is that for my father's side, this is my way of giving back to my line. So, quick story time. Starting with my grandfather. My grandfather was an apprentice to this man in Somalia. However, he had noticed that within some of the operations that there was, of course, corruption and skimming of the money, and he was in charge of the books. So he went up to the main guy and kind of told him that it was happening, and he wanted to let him know. So this guy back then was like building this really big business that, you know, my grandfather had been a part of since the beginning. And so he had worked his way up to now being able to own all these teams and see them through from a financial perspective. Like, you know, he's a head accounting guy. But it turns out that in him telling the founder that this is what's happening and that he needs to punish or fire those people, the founder told him to shut up. And my grandfather said, no, why? Like, these people are taking money, this is corruption. And my grandfather was terminated. However, in that termination, my grandfather went and ended up doing another job, but that man became the second richest man in Somalia. He became a billionaire, and he basically became a billionaire through skimming all that shit. Well, I wouldn't say all of that. I don't know all the details, but you see kind of how my grandfather, you know, he didn't fumble the bag, but it was his integrity that really fumbled it. So in that light, you see how the bad guy won and the good guy had to pay for it. And so now you transfer that into the next generation, which is my father. Now my father and I, we twin, hey twin. But basically, my father also was in a very similar situation where he was a manager for a big distribution company, aka Harry's. And Harry's, this happened right before it was acquired by Whole Foods. But Harry's basically was a small regional, you know, food chain, great quality, was really focused on, you know, providing great customer care. Like, I remember, if y'all were back in the day, I loved Harry's. I miss Harry's. I miss their ice cream. But anyways, and my dad, not really even knowing a lick of English, was able to work his way from the fish and produce, I think it was a fish market, my bad, Dad. The fish market all the way up to being the actual supervising manager of that whole store within a few months. So he's pretty badass. And when they were able to do that, they actually decided, hey, you're killing it. Your operations is fuego. So what we need to do now is have you own a store and be the manager of the store. So we packed up and we moved all the way across town in Atlanta. And we basically were in a new city, aka, I think it was Norcross at this time. And my dad had just bought a new house. This is a follow-up from the lovely story I was saying around the ancestral healing that I'm doing with the work I am creating with Aleph and the Kickstarter campaign, and why I find myself to be extremely confident here, because I got my homies behind. Say hello, ancestors. Okay, that's kind of scary, I'm sorry. But anywho, I feel like I really want to be able to create a TV show where I can like make these like little comments about spirituality and make them more practical and funny, because I do be talking to them and they are around. But if I say this now, you guys might think I'm crazy, and then next thing you know, I'll hear a knock on the door, and then next thing you'll see a video with me wearing grippy socks. So I don't want that. But anyways, to continue the story, my dad moved my family and I over to we moved from Roswell to Norcross. Go Blue Devils! And my dad had just bought a new house, which was a humongous milestone, because think about the fact that my parents both came here, and within maybe 5 or so years of not knowing the language, of not even knowing each other, getting married and having a family and getting a job and getting acclimated to a new country, they bought a house all on their own. Like, do you see why I have this hustle and drive? Like, do you see that? Because my mom and my dad have the vision and the drive, and I've seen it executed even when the odds are really against them and no one has done it. Sorry, I got a little heated there, but you know, my parents got my dogs. Anywho, my dad was able to kind of start working and managing this new store. And of course, the numbers improved dramatically. Sales were out the roof. My dad was able to find efficiency. My grandpa and my dad were all in charge of finding efficiency and knowing how to work with people in a way that was able to build trust, collaboration, and be able to get the goddamn thing done well and having a good time. But in essence, what ended up happening was my dad also found out that the managing supervisor was also skimming from the top. And from that, he was able to tell the guy, hey, I see that you're doing this. Can you stop, or else I'm going to have to go to regional? And instead of doing that, the man fired my dad. And I think my dad almost fought him. I'm actually not going to lie. I think they had to call police. So my dad, I don't think he really fought. I think he verbally fought, but basically he was terminated, had a brand new house, a brand new car, and 3 children and a wife waiting for him at home. And he got fired and now had to deal with us, because he chose to go the high road, because he chose integrity and morals. And what ended up happening to that guy, I think he died, actually. I'd have to ask my dad what actually happened. I think he might have died, but I also don't think he died. And if he did not die and he is hearing this, fuck you, man. I'm coming for you. No one messes with my dad. But anyways, he either didn't die or he may have died. But either way, the main aspect of this is that he was there long enough to be a part of the team that was then a part of the merger with Whole Foods, who bought all of Harry's, and he got a fat payout. And what was left for my dad? To figure out how the heck he's gonna afford a new home in all of this, right? Like, this is the story of my ancestral line on my father's side. And that has been the story for me within my own corporate life. In my first job, I was doing so well that I got promoted, not even promoted, I got assigned to be a team lead. Within that, I was working with other consultants who were my age. And because I told them, managing consultant, that continuously extended me on this project without telling me, which is a no-no, you have to tell people. And when I asked multiple times to not get rolled onto this project further, and she ignored that, basically I went above her head and I went and talked to, not even above her head, I talked to my performance manager. I went and talked to my performance manager and I said, yo, she keeps extending me. I don't know what to do. Performance manager is like, that is against policy. And he goes to the practice manager. I'm over here like, doo. Turns out she got in trouble. I was able to roll off immediately. But then what happens? I get fucked when it comes to year-end reviews, because the way that it works at this firm was that they do this thing called calibration, where everybody kind of provides their own scorecard and rating for people who are going to be put up for promotion. And I was promised that. I was 1.5 years into my career. I was busting my ass. I was the lead while all my other consultants were on. I was managing them. And no offense, I love them. I'm not talking about that in any sort of manner. You guys are my people. But what I am saying is, in the essence of this conversation, I was promised a lot. And then as soon as I acted in accordance to policy and the fact that I didn't want to be on this project anymore, and I wasn't being respected, I got dinged during my calibration. And you know what fucking happened? In calibration, all of the managing consultants, any product leads, as well as any of the the big guys, managing partners would come. and they would show the people who are being kind of ranked, and then they'll pick like the first 3 and they're good to go. But in order for it to be fair, everyone has to go to make sure that the ratings are correct, because sometimes you'll have an amazing manager, but you're not that great of an employee. Or sometimes you have a really shitty manager, aka me, and your manager literally talks shit about you in the actual. Or you have a really shitty manager, but people know that you're a really good worker and that your rating is inaccurate. But guess what happened? So basically, these conversations are supposed to be confidential, but clearly that wasn't the case because it made its way to me. What made its way to me was a random managing partner telling my coworker that my managing consultant, my project lead, went and told everybody in that room that I was sleeping with my coworker. I was the only Black woman in that firm. Like, I was the only Black person in that office. I was the only person of color that was put up for promotion. And to make matters worse, I didn't get the promotion, but the coworker who they said I was with got the promotion and was the person who I was managing. And honestly, babe, I know this is not about you. You're great. It's not about you. It's about them. And you know what they did was fucked. That was to homeboy. We're still friends. He's so great. I hope life is good for you, babes. Then I go to my next job. Now, fast forward to this job, and I kind of feel a little bit bad about this, but I have to be honest. I got fucked because during COVID, people started switching over to virtual calls. When that happens, I had to do virtual interviews for the first time, and you're only seeing this much of somebody. So I ended up interviewing at this amazing healthcare startup company that I was pumped about. Like, it was my dream company. It was my dream role. I was project operations and I was lit. I was going to do product launches, all of that fun stuff. And it was a great opportunity because I was told that I was going to be able to build a team from the ground up. I was like, yes, finally, I could do it. Put me in, coach. But I was told that there was other people on the team and that more were going to come and that I was going to get support, and this is great. I jumped onto that team. Tell me why. The manager was pregnant, 7 months, and on top of that, the other employee was 100% at capacity. If anything, she was 150% at capacity, and that I had a month and a half to not only learn all the ins and outs of a humongous healthcare startup, and finally understand how to work with engineers. I don't know if you've ever worked with engineers. No offense, y'all, like, we need you, but like, there's no you're mean. Like, I get it, cause straight to the chase, but like, why can't we kiki a little bit? Like, I want to see you laugh, I want to see you smile, but every time I ask you a question, you give me a death glare, or you just read my Slack message and then you tell me to file a ticket. Like, come on. But anyways, I ended up coming on within a month and a half. I had to learn all the things about the company. I had to take on her client, which happens to be one of the biggest healthcare fucking insurance companies, who were beyond rude to me. And I had to take on other clients, and I had to train a new person that they hired. What? I lasted 9 months at that job. If anything, I was probably only present for the first month. And then when she left to go on maternity leave, I had no manager. I had a supervisor to turn to, but he really wasn't helpful. But I did have an amazing friend who was literally my mom in that place. Like, I'd call her and be like, I'm crying, help. Like, I'd crash out, and she would actually do some shit about it. So shout out to you. I love you. Miss you, babes. But that was my girl. She held it down. My coworkers have always held it down for me. But honestly, the reason I hated this job more than anything was I had to make big people decisions. Don't ask me about money. Why was I making decisions about millions of dollars? But now, look at where we're at. Anyways, go to part 3. Next part, and I forgot the numbers already, but basically, just a recap, in the last video, we talked about why I feel so confident, because my ancestors are behind me, because my grandfather got fucked, and now the guy that he was supposed to work with but was, taking money, became the second richest man in Somalia. Then you have my dad, who ended up kind of being honest about what happened at a company, and the company ends up being bought out by Whole Foods, making millions, and everybody there also cashing out but him. Then you have me talking currently about all my shitty work experiences and how every time I spoke up for myself, or when I put myself out there, I was slapped in the face. And now I'm continuing from that. So we're talking right now about that healthcare startup company where I got screwed over, and I was working with this major healthcare company who was making me make $1 million decisions or approve it. And I was like, I've never seen this many dollar signs, so, or like zeros and commas. So yeah. And you want me to do the financials behind that? I don't know basic arithmetic. So no. But either way, I was doing it, and I was like, I don't know why a 25-year-old is making these decisions for big people where their insurance is on the line. But anyways, I was able to get through and out of that place. But basically, that was the second job where I took a risk and I got fucked, and I felt really bad for the manager. I know she didn't do it on purpose, and she's a really amazing person. But damn, that was my no, I don't want to say that. That was a crash out summer. Quick note, as I am editing this, that was the summer I went blonde, and I included a photo for you all to see because I really had a lot of fun. Like, when I tell you I crashed out every summer, but honestly, my coworkers kept me saying, like, that job was the first job that really taught me that people actually can see me and can't see the hurt through the things that people are saying and doing to me. And prior to that, I always felt very invisible. Like, I would tell people what people would do to me and people would never believe me. But this was the first job where people actually witnessed it. And they're like, holy fuck. And I was like, yeah. So now, let's say the next job I leave that company and I go into the next job and the same thing happens, but even worse. It's kind of crazy how it constantly gets worse. At first, I got someone who's telling people I'm dating coworkers, so therefore I can't be promoted, but yet that coworker gets promoted. Then I go and I have no team and I'm left alone to make $1 million decisions to a big healthcare company where lives are at risk. And then the last bit is I'm running a men's hair loss company. How?
I beg your pardon? I beg your pardon?
And I'm not gonna lie, my current roommate has keeps, and I saw it when I took a shower and I almost threw up. Like, you know, it felt like that Call of Duty moment when someone like throws like a gas at you and it's like
oh my god. That shit is just rocking my beat right now.
Ooh, just even reminding myself of that was awful. But honestly, it was my favorite job, y'all. Like, that's the worst part out of all of this. It was my favorite job. The problem with it was that I just didn't have a manager. I didn't have anyone that can tell me how to run this. And the general manager, when I had got there, actually left. And then a few months later, the actual manager I had, or my reporting manager, ended up going into a vertical, which therefore left me with no manager. And guess who my manager was? The CEO of the company. He was dope. I can't say anything but that aspect of just like, Manny, your whole life, you've had no choice but to step up. Like, I was the dad that stepped up. But in this experience, I was able to literally learn so much under him, and also learn how to really be bold and put myself out there and to manage all these people, despite the fact that everyone was much older than me. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was so deeply interested in all brand marketing, product, all of that, even down to fulfillment, all the operational stuff. I literally was in systems galore. And even more, I love being able to boost my team's morale and also be their guard, like their protector. Like, I would make sure that, you know, this is what we prioritize. And if leadership wants to change it, you're going to have to go through a 5-step process because it's strict in here. Or at least, if I'm being honest, I was a really good middle ground. Like, you know, I was able to really understand what it is that the leadership team wanted and truly be able to be like, okay, well, if that's what you want, this is where we're at, given the constraints that we have been kind of working through and placed upon us. I think in essence, you just need X, Y, and Z, and I can get that down to the team, see when they can do that. But you would also have to kind of deprioritize. You see, like, you knew what I mean? Like, I had that whole flow of making sure that everything was an equal give and take. Like, you know, I was really good at being able to run an amazing team. So much so that my first ever product launch that I saw all the way through, within 3 months, made $1 million. So, do you see how I'm a walking bank? Literally. You just gotta have the right code to open me up. However, this is where things went downhill, because as soon as that happened, I ended up taking on a new initiative from the team, because they were like, oh, wow, okay, you killed it. Well, now we want you to go into anti-aging. And I said, Make that make sense. This is a men's hair loss company. Why would men go from treating hair loss to anti-aging? First off, I'm gonna be real with you. I think maybe 50% of our users have a 3-in-1, and I think survey that show that they really don't. And so that's why we actually wanted to launch the shampoo and conditioner. And I think that was the whole angle that we went into. Like, you're better than that 2-in-1. Get your shampoo and conditioner and treat your hair loss. Got it. You see, I'm that dog. I'm just having so much fun doing this, honestly. Like, I have so much in me and so many stories, and it's all making sense now. I hope it's making sense to you guys. But in essence, I ended up saying, okay, like, we can test it out. But then they're like money hungry, of course. And they said, cool, test it out and launch it within 1 month. I said, I can't do that. They said, fuck you. Then I said, oop, okay. Turned over to my team. My team said, fuck you. I said, oop, okay. Well, I guess who had to do a lot of it? Me. But at the same time, I did not give my all. My heart was genuinely out of it, because I was dealing with personal family things that had rocked me. So that was the first time in my life where I had to deal with the gravity and the fragility of life in itself, while also dealing with the thing that I loved crashing right in front of me, aka my team, because they just turned against each other. Like, that was a month that my team, like, we completely fell apart, and I could not be there to put them together. And all I had to do was take all the heat from both sides, and also take on the fact that life is so fragile and short with that incident. And it got to the point where, like, I had to take a mental health leave for the first time, because I was letting my family down, because I couldn't be there for my sister, who was going through a really, really tough time. And I didn't tell anybody about it. You know, I think I kept that conversation between her and I, which in my life, I never thought that I'd ever hear people utter those words of, you know, wanting to take their life and attempting, and then getting that phone call in the office as I'm getting yelled at by people, and realizing that I'm not able to tell anybody about it, keep it to myself. Then at the same time, my team's crumbling that I love and built, to the point where I took a mental health leave because I was throwing up every day. I was throwing up, I couldn't eat, and I know that my body was withering away to the point where I was shaking. And so it was one of the hardest things, because to me, it felt like in that moment, everything I had worked for, all the hardships, all the, you know, naysayers I pushed against, and all the obstacles and all the things that my parents instilled and did for me was wasted, truly. And I found that I felt extremely weak. I felt like my authority was gone. I couldn't keep up anymore, and people would see me different for the rest of my life. Like, this would be a big scar on me, and I never would be able to make anything of myself. So I basically took a mental health leave, and I told myself to assimilate, to put my head down and just keep going with life, because I had realized the fragility of life on one end, and I saw what happens when I get too ambitious. You know, I saw my team fall, I saw everything crumble, and my life on the other side crumble, because I wasn't able to be there for people. So to me, I felt like I wasn't any good, so I decided to be a busybody. Go to part whatever for the rest of this. So once I was able to really put my head down, I told myself I needed to focus on having fun, because I realized at the end of the day, a job was a job, even though that really hurt me to say at the time. But what was more important to me was being there for people in my life, because I realized the fragility of life, and how a conversation or a call with somebody or checking in on someone is so critical. It's so important, because you don't know what that could do for somebody. But again, in December, that's when everything fell crumbling down again, because I ended up getting a new manager right after the mental health leave, because my CEO was like, yeah, you can't do it, it's too much. And when that happened, my manager actually was the worst human ever. He was an extremely insecure man, and I stand by that. And if you want to talk to me, You know where to hit me up. Actually, you don't, because I blocked you. Actually, I didn't block him, but I don't fuck with him. He sucks. But he became an extremely insecure guy because he knew I had shit handled and stuff. And I was a lot younger than him. And more importantly, I was a black woman, right? At the end of the day, that's something to consider because there's not a lot of me, a lot of us in these spaces and also holding these positions and also being this visible and okay with being this visible. Because something about me at work was like, honestly, very hot. Like, I loved work Manny or like corporate Manny because corporate Manny literally saw any opportunity to go up against a white man as like I got so excited because I love putting them in their place, but not in their place, but like I could do it much better than you. You know, I guess that was a little bit of a chip of the shoulder authority issue there with white men, but either way, I need to look at my dating history. Fuck. Oh! That's for another story for another time. But anywho, I ended up basically having even a worse experience at my job, and to this point now where my team actually turned against me and started bullying me and saying really mean things, and my manager would just allow it. And on top of it, my manager would purposely drop changes to plans and initiatives during the calls with the team to let me handle the outright craziness that comes from it. You know, I'm like, hey, I just heard about this initiative being deprioritized and a new one coming in right now, just as you heard it. So I'm like, hey, homeboy, back me up. Silence, nothing. Hey, hello. I was like, okay, well, anyways, I guess that like, I'll table this conversation. Let me circle back with him and get some more clarification because I don't know what's happening. It was the worst thing, and they just kept calling me dumb, especially this one girl, and I hope she burns, and she knows exactly who she is, and she sucks. But I honestly think that she was very smart, and I hope, and very, very talented, and I just wish that she wasn't so mean to me because I thought we could be friends, but she was very power hungry, and I don't like power hungry people. But anyways, she was my biggest op. I've never had a work enemy before. I've had work ops, but they're usually like leadership and I talk shit about them. But this physical person, I wanted to fight. And if I see her in the streets of New York, I'm not going to be scared to not fight her. Okay, I need to stop putting threats out there because I don't want to get sued. So I take all of that back. But regardless, it got so bad to the point that now my people, my team, were all bullying me to the point where I had to leave. I can't believe the thing that I loved more than anything, the people, the connections, the systems all turned against me. Every job showed me that the system failed me, aka my first job, the fact that the client and what we were doing failed me, and the fact that the people failed me. You know, it's the fact that my system, the law and the order of promotions and stuff failed me, and that. Then you have the second job where the actual opportunity failed me and I wasn't able to build a team, and I was just stuck being a punching bag to clients, which I hated. Then on top of that, I hated making big decisions because I just felt always pressured to do it. So I hate decision making. Then all of a sudden I go into the next job, which then all of my people turn against me. And I find that over the last 2.5 years, I've had to heal all of my relationships to that, to the people I work with, to the system that's created and kind of the structure and how order is created and how people operate and work with one another. And also more importantly, how decisions are made, and also how to have a good fucking time, because every job stresses shit out of me. Literally, work Manny and life Manny was so different that I think that's why I was so extreme. Work Manny was too locked in, and life Manny was crazy because she was chasing thrills. She wanted to feel something, because for the 5 days out of the week and the 60 hours that she would work, she numbed herself. And that's the story of so many people. And so that's why I believe this is going to work, because I did the work that my dad and my grandpa carried through for me to work on. I took that karma and I got that shit 3x'd. It's so crazy to just think. I was like, damn, what my dad do? Damn, my grandpa. They didn't do anything, but it's mainly my karma then to heal, break, and bring in our freaking abundance. You see what I mean? And the same goes for my mom's side, which I will talk about in another episode. But that is what I mean when I believe that I'm giving the opportunity and the passageway and the backing of my ancestors to be this goddamn bold. Because I have been wronged, my line has been wronged, and every time we have chose to be good people, the opposite benefits. And that time in life is no longer existing. The wheel is turning in favor for those who move and operate from a place of love. And that is what I had to learn how to heal, how to create boundaries, how to honor, how to respect, and how to love and create in motion, which is a love. So in essence, either you're with me or you're against me. Okay, bye.